I hope everyone's okay. Let me welcome you once again, and so happy to see you in the second semester. And I am more happy because you are my old students, and we would be continuing the second semester academic counseling. The subject that we are going to take up now is directly related to the subject that we had discussed. We had, gone through in the first semester. So I hope all of you would be as interactive as you were in the first semester. And we would follow a system where I would suggest that we take up queries for the academic counseling session that we do on a particular day. The queries we'll take on the second day so that you have time to go through the study material, come up with doubts or queries, whatever you have, and then we'll devote somewhere around 5 minutes, 5 minutes to discuss the queries or the questions or the doubts that you might have in the first counseling session. Okay. So the subject that we are going, I will start off with the presentation, and I request the co-host to please admit whoever comes in between the presentation, because I would not be able to admit those learners. Okay. And I would request you all to tell me, because we might have a problem with the presentation. So if you are able to see the screen, you please inform me accordingly. Okay, are you able to see my first slide? Are you able to see the slide presentation?
No, ma. Yes, ma, it's visible.
Uh,
It's visible. What can you see? Let me check.
Strategic management, Dr. Sona.
no,
Okay,
I
thank
can't.
you.
No, we can't see, ma.
You can't see. Now, if someone's able to see and the other people are not able to see, what do I do about that problem from my end? Can you guide
Now
me?
it's
Well,
visible.
Ma, I think from your end it is good. Maybe the person should check his network connectivity.
Yeah, if some
Okay.
people are able to see and others are not able to see, that means the network is down in their
Excuse me.
area.
Visible now.
Is it visible now? That's good enough. Good enough. Okay,
Yeah.
right. It's visible now also.
Yes, ma.
Yes, it is very clear.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Um, Before we start off with this subject, you must have seen the syllabus. You must have you have studied a lot of number of subjects in the first semester, and you may have received the syllabus for the second semester also. And this subject, which is called strategic management, is uh, subject which is related to all the other subjects, obviously, because you are students of management, and you are going to, in the different subjects, you're going to understand various concepts, various components of management, right? And in the beginning of the session, I said that I am happy because I got this subject. The reason being that when we were in the first semester, we talked of a subject. We studied a subject which is called Principles and Practices of Management, or Management Theory. And strategic management, in fact, is a subset or a part of the planning and the management process. Okay. So, coming to the subject, let us look at what we have here in this subject in block one. Block one is obviously introduction to the strategic management concept, and after we complete the block one units or the syllabus for the block one, we should be in a position to understand what is a strategy, what is the nature of a strategy, how it differs from the other forms of plans that exist in an organization, and then how strategic decisions are taken, and what are the different levels of strategy, and a whole variety of other subtopics we would be looking at. Okay, so we'll start from here. Now, the first question is, what is strategic management? And the word management is there, and there are two components of the term strategic management. One is strategic, and the other is the management. And by now, since you're in the second semester, you're very clear on exactly what we mean by management. We mean that when we get together all resources which are available at our disposal, and then put them all together, and in a complete whole try to achieve some organizational objectives or aims, then it is called management. And when we are talking about strategic management is an entirely different kind of a management, which deals with certain specific elements, right? This subject is about decision making and actions. I'm reading from the slide and then we'll start discussing it. The subject is about decision making and actions which determine whether an enterprise excels, survives, or dies. The job of strategic managers is to make best use of a firm's resources in a changing environment. It entails taking decisions today for tomorrow's world and business that we are going to do tomorrow. Now, what do you mean by all this? We mean that we, if we look at history, we would see there are a lot of organizations have started, a lot of firms started, businesses started. Not many of them, were able to survive. Not many of them were able to excel. Not many of them were able to, do business at the top of the industry. So what happens? Why do some businesses fail? Why do some businesses excel? Why do some businesses are able to, just survive, and they are always fighting for survival? Why does this happen? This happens because they are not able, these businesses are possibly not able to take decisions according to the changing environment. Okay? Why? Because the environment is, we would come to those terms later, the environment is very dynamic. the environment is very competitive. We'll come to those things later. The business environment in which a business operates is basically very dynamic, very competitive, very unpredictable, very uncertain. So only those businesses are able to do well in an environment, in a business environment, because who's able to do well? The businesses which are able to do well are those businesses which constantly studying the environment, are constantly looking for, analyzing the environment to find out exactly whether the business is going, whether the environment is conducive to them, or it's not, or is it going to produce some kind of threats to them, and then they make plans according to that. So businesses which are able to analyze the environment properly are able to excel and survive, and businesses which are not able to analyze the environment and take actions accordingly are not able to survive in the long run. Okay. Now that brings us to the, since we are talking of strategic management, the first term which we need to explain is strategy. And you would remember from the last time that strategy is a type of a plan, right? In an organization, we make a lot of plans, a number of plans, and their scope and working is different. And out of those plans that we make in an organization, strategy is a particular kind of a plan which is defined as this. Strategy is a unified, comprehensive, and integrated plan that relates the strategic advantage of the firm to the challenges of the environment, and is designed to ensure that basic objectives of the enterprise are achieved through proper implementation process. Now, this is quite a complicated kind of a definition, but let's break it down into the basic elements which are there. Strategy is a unified, comprehensive plan. What does that mean? Integrated plan. It means that when a strategy is formulated, it is formulated for the whole organization, majorly, right? It ties all the parts of the organization together. These parts of the organization have different contribution to the strategic plan. Majorly, all the major aspects of the business are covered in the strategy, and the strategy is made in a manner where all the plans of belonging to the different parts of the business are compatible and integrated with each other. They are interlinked and interdependent, right? There is one more phrase there which says it relates the strategic advantage of the firm to the environment, to the challenges of the environment. Now, what does the strategy do? The strategy relates these advantages of the firm. Now, every business has its own strengths and weaknesses. Okay? All businesses have, some businesses have a lot of good people. Some businesses have, good technology. Some businesses have good policies in place, have a location advantage, have a raw material advantage, or basically are making a product or a service which is very successful, which is very wanted in the society. So every business has a strength and weakness, and it is the work of the strategy to ensure that the strengths are utilized to meet the challenges of the environment, and the weaknesses, they are safeguarded, or the organization works towards improving, reducing those weaknesses. Strategy obviously also means proper implementation, because it is no use deciding, it is no use making a foolproof plan after studying the environment but not being able to implement it. So implementation is an important part of strategy. And obviously all plans in the organization, everything that an organization does is for the achievement of organizational objectives. Okay. So strategy differs from the other types of plans in the way of being able to relate to things, the external environment and the internal strategic advantage of the firm. That is what is a strategy. Do you have anyone has a query or something? Are you able to understand what a strategy is?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, please, we do.
From the examination point of view, we would have to see what is the nature of a strategy. We've already discussed this in the definition. let us look at it one by one. Like we said, it is a blend of internal and external factors. It is the only plan which takes into consideration both internal and external factors. It is a major course of action. Why is it a major course of action? Because every other plan in the organization is derived out of a strategy only, right? It's a combination of actions. Combination of actions would mean there's a lot of various different perspectives, various different components of a strategy. It is not only related to one function, or it is not only related to one, aspect of an organization. A strategy involves a whole variety of comprehensive, actions which have to be taken if we are to reach a particular objective, right? Sometimes it also involves a contradictory action in the sense that we might have to change strategies in between. We might follow one strategy for a particular time, and then if it's not working, we may change it after some time. Strategic actions are required for new situations which have not arisen in the past, obviously, because if a situation has arisen in the past, then we don't need a strategy at all. And if we have already been prepared for that situation, if we've already dealt with that condition, and we've made some policies and programs and plans to take care of those issues, then strategy is not required. It is an overall framework which guides us, on the basis of which we make other plans, and the whole organization works, right? Aim is to achieve competitive advantage. We'll come to that. What is the competitive advantage? Again, competitive advantage is relating the internal core competencies with what is there in the environment, so that we are able to identify where we are strong in the marketplace, where we are better than the competitors, where we will do better than the competitors, and where we will be in a position to do good in the industry. Series of decisions are taken and they are in the same direction would mean there's a vector quality here, that you cannot, since strategy is a major plan in the organization, you cannot be changing your strategies every now and then. That is why they have to be well thought of. The environment has to be studied diligently, and only then you need to pick up a direction in which you would like to take the organization. What are there's something which is mentioned, this I've already mentioned, when we were looking at this definition of strategy, that there are some challenges in the environment. We know what are the challenges in the environment. We have a lot of forces in the environment which are influencing the organization directly or indirectly. These forces could be general, which affect the whole economy, or they could be specific to our particular firm or specific to our industry. The environment obviously is very uncertain because we don't have any control over it. It keeps on changing. It is dynamic. It is complex. The reason being there are whole gamut of factors which are there in the environment: economical, social, cultural, legal, political. Right? There are many factors out in the environment, and it is relative. Some things could be good for us. It might not be good for some other firms. Some environmental factors might be good for the whole economy, but they might not be good for us, for our organization. So therefore, we need to actually thoroughly analyze the environment, and that is why strategic management is needed as a field, and it is studied as a subject, and it is of core importance in the organization, because we are able to identify opportunities and accordingly, take the first mover advantage. We are if strategic management process is needed, because we can anticipate change and provide and understand exactly where we want to take the organization. Opportunities, we've already said, we can innovate in time in case we are able to identify some threats coming up in the environment. We can take advantage of new opportunities, that we've already said. So these are just points which are actually duplicate, but then we need to, from the examination point of view, we need to write separate points. We need strategic management because it reduces risk, conflict, and uncertainty. Why? Because we are thinking about the future and formulating our plans accordingly. So we are able to offset some risk at least. And people who are managers or employees of the organization who are involved in strategic management, it is a learning experience for them, because they are using all kinds of tools and techniques to understand the environment and in the course of the strategic management thing, they are able to evaluate. They have to evaluate a lot of alternative courses of action. So it is a learning and a training for them. And strategic management also helps us allocate resources. Now we would understand that whether it is capital, whether it is people, whether it is processes, whatever inputs are needed for an organization to work, they are called resources. And these resources are not endless, they are not infinite. Resources are always scarce, resources are always limited, and needs of the organization are diverse. So, strategic management helps in the proper allocation, in the optimal allocation of resources, where we're able to identify that, if it's a multi-product company, we are able to identify where we should put in what resources to get better returns, to get better, to be able to achieve objectives. Okay, so these are all general things, and after this we'll come to the core strategic management process. Now, as we said that, if we look at strategic management, uh, we might feel, since we are looking at the scanning of the environment, we're talking of being able to meet the challenges of the environment. So we would feel that, the strategic management process or strategic management function is done only at the top level. It is not like that. At every level in the organization, wherever it is imperative that that level of the organization, that the people functions at that level of the organization, they need to make a choice between alternatives. They have a lot of options to reach their objectives, and they need to decide as to what option they should follow or what alternative course of action they should follow. They have to compare and analyze the different courses of action, right? So strategic management can exist at different levels of the organization. Obviously, it is not existing at the operational level, at the lowest level of the organization, because they have plans and policies and procedures and other small plans to help them out in their functioning, in their day-to-day functioning. But at the functional level, the functional managers need to do some strategic management activities. At the business unit level, if it's a multi-product firm, you might have come across this term that there are some organizations which have, they manufacture a lot of product lines. So they have different divisions. They might be manufacturing vehicles, they might be manufacturing two-wheelers or four-wheelers, they might be manufacturing other forms of um, uh, consumer or organizational products, business products. So in those organizations, in those multi-product organizations, there are different business units. A business unit is basically taking care of a similar product line. Okay, so for example, if it's consumer durables, then consumer durables might have a TV division, television division, or an AC division, or some other such. So every business unit head will be involved in the strategic management process, because they have to specifically study the environment in relation to their business unit. So they also have to make strategic plans. And obviously, the top level of the organization, which is composed of the top management people, the chairman, the CEO, the director, the board of directors, the presidents, vice presidents, consultants, advisory groups, they are definitely into strategic management, because they are the people who decide in which direction the organization is going to grow, or how the organization is going to deal with the environmental changes. So the top level definitely is into strategic management. There is one more thing that we need to talk of. This is modes of strategic management. Now, what does this mean? Strategic management obviously is, we're going to repeat the whole thing again and again. Strategic management is about being able to survive in the changing environment, right? Not just survive, being able to do good, being able to excel, being able to make profit, being able to grow in the changing environment. But then not all organizations do it proactively or do it aggressively. So there are different styles of strategic management. One is the planning mode. So some organizations, some people might plan for the future in a systematic and rational manner, where they would use mathematical tools, analytical tools to analyze the environment and study the internal strengths and weaknesses and the opportunities and threats in a scientific manner. So that is the planning mode of strategic management. There is an entrepreneurial mode. Who is an entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is someone who takes risks, someone who's bold, someone who's, who is basically the lifeline of the organization, whether it's a small organization or a big organization. So an entrepreneur, in the entrepreneurial mode, the team of people who are at the top would be very proactive, bold. They would, even if they do not have systematic data, even if they do not have scientific, proof of whether a particular course of action is going to be fruitful or not, they go ahead with it if they feel that it is going to be good for the organization, right? We see a lot of examples of organizations where people follow this mode, people who are risk taking. There's one more mode of strategic management is called adaptive mode, where if the market leaders are doing something, then these people will do it. So they are reactive and timid and they do not take any risks. Those kind of organizations are also existing in the marketplace, though they make only maybe below average, profits. Okay. So this was the basic, the initial introduction of strategic management. Now, that completes the first unit. There are other things also, smaller elements of what covered already, and you can ask questions if you have any by when we meet tomorrow in the beginning of the academic counseling session tomorrow. The second unit is the process of strategy. It's the most important part of the strategic management subject or the strategic management concept, right? And here we will be looking at the various stages or steps of the strategic management process and the detailed components of the different steps. So you should be able to understand the process of strategy, the steps of strategy formulation, or the process of the various steps here. You would also understand how important these different steps are and the sequence of activities. It's all the same thing here. Okay. Now, various sources give you different process of strategic management, but safely we can go ahead and say that the process of strategic management involves the following 6 steps. First is strategic intent. Second is environmental and organizational analysis. Third is identification of strategic alternatives. Fourth is choice of strategy. Fifth is implementation of strategy. And sixth is evaluation and control. Now your complete syllabus is divided into explanation of the following steps of process of strategic management. Okay. The unit number 2, which we are talking about right now, gives us a brief outline of what the process of strategic management is. Okay. The unit that we are talking of right now. There's another figure which denotes the process of scientific management in different manner. It is a model actually. So when we say that the first step in the strategic management process is developing vision and mission statements, that means it is the strategic intent. Intent, you must be aware of the word. Intent is intention or motive or vision. So it's all the same. So when we are the first step of the strategic management process would involve developing vision and mission statements. Post developing the vision and mission statements, we would obviously see how the environment is. The environment basically is divided into 2 components. the external environment and the internal environment, right? Then after we analyze the environment, we establish long-term objectives, we define what we want to achieve in how many, in what time duration. This is the basic initial background of strategy. From here, we decide, this is if you can see at the, the lower level of the chart, you can see that it is divided into basically three parts. First is strategy formulation, second is strategic implementation, and third is strategic evaluation. And within this, these are the various steps here. So once the objectives are finalized, we go ahead and see what all strategic alternatives are available to us. We choose a strategic alternative which is more suited to our requirements in the light of the environmental analysis. Once we choose the strategies which are suitable, which we think would lead us to accomplish our objectives, we go ahead with the implementation of those strategies. And then obviously, like with all the management functions, management processes, management concepts, we have to measure and evaluate the performance of what has happened after implementations. Only then we would be in a position to say whether our strategic management process has been complete, whether we've been able to implement whatever we wanted to implement, and whether we would be able to achieve our objectives. And in case we are not able to, in case we feel that somewhere we are lacking, the organization is lacking somewhere, the strategies that we decided possibly were not up to the mark, we have not been able to achieve our objectives, and we go ahead, when we come back, and we will start the whole process again. I would like to state here one more thing, that like with all the other management processes, when we discussed this in the first semester, I remember telling you that management paths or the steps of management, they are iterative. You may have to come back to rectify or take corrective action, in any of these steps. So it is an iterative. So similarly with the strategic management process, you might have to come back. The only thing here is that strategies, since they are made for long term and they have a lot at stake, when we are talking of the organization as a whole, a lot many resources are involved. The time frame is huge. A lot many people are involved. And there is also a question of creating confusion if you go back and make changes to this strategy. So every time when you're dealing with strategic issues, you have to be very sure, and you have to be very concise, and you have to be very confident. Only then you should go ahead with the implementation of the strategies, right? Okay. So let us look at the various parts, various components, or steps of the strategic management process, or it can also be called strategic management framework. The first part of the strategic management process or the strategic management framework was strategic intent. What is strategic intent? Strategic intent defines the vision and the mission of the organization. What do you mean by vision and what do you mean by mission? If you can just look at the slide over here, the mission is the answer to the question, what business are we in? And why are we in business gives us the objectives. So any organization, any business, when it is started, obviously it is started by people. It is not started by some other entity. So there could be one person, or there could be more than one people in the organization. They are the founder members of the organization. They are the owners of the organizations. They start the organization with some kind of a vision in their mind. The vision could be economic. It could be a social. It could carry some social obligation, kind of a thing. So the starting point of every organization, whether it is a profit organization, whether it is a non-profit organization, whether it is an institution, whether it is a cooperative, any organization, if you must be aware that the definition of organization is two or more people working
Ma'am,
together to achieve. Yeah.
the slides are not moving.
I'm sorry, the slides are not.
They are not moving, and the slide which you say we should see is not
I'm
visible.
sorry
We are on the
because
first slide.
I'm not moving it because I am just speaking something looking at one slide only. We are not moving. What can you see right now?
I see Unit 1 concept of strategy.
What about the others?
All the same.
Only the first slide you're able to see.
It is the
Yes,
same
yes.
So you should have told me earlier.
things we have writing on the chat box.
Let me just okay. No, because once you start with the presentation, no, we are not able to see the chat box even. Just a moment. I'll just see what can be done. Okay, hold on. Are you able to see something now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
What now? What's the slide where you stuck at? Just tell me the slide. What was it? So that we go ahead and go back.
That is strategy.
This one?
What is the strategy?
Okay. But what was the earlier slide you were, we were stuck on our slide now. You couldn't actually see the rest of the presentation. So which was the last slide that you saw?
Since the beginning of presentation, slides were not moving, but we are
Okay.
listening. We are talking about strategic intent.
Okay. You want me to run through them once again in a fast forward mode?
No,
You
you
can,
cannot.
if possible.
Yes, please.
Continue.
Yes.
Okay. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. Okay. This is the first slide. The earlier one was just the name of the unit. Right. I think it's very clear to you what is strategic management.
The slide is not visible, ma'am.
Slide is not visible again.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you're not able to see the presentation. I think I'll just keep the slide on the file. Hold on. Now are you
Okay.
able to see?
No.
What is the issue?
Nothing.
Hold on.
Okay, ma'am.
What about now?
Nothing. Yeah.
Please tell me what is visible to you.
So visible up to now.
Can you speak a little louder?
It is not visible up to now, ma'am.
What do I put? What about now?
No.
Not visible.
Yeah,
It is now.
Now it is, ma'am.
It's
It's
visible.
visible.
yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
I hope it's visible to
Yeah, now
everyone.
it's visible.
Yes, ma, it's visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It's visible.
We've lost a little precious time, but I think we'll go ahead, fast forward mode, and then I'll reach the slide that we were that we had already reached. So this you've understood that strategic management is about taking decisions, looking at the environment, and then deciding in what direction to take the organization, right? What is
Yes, ma'am.
strategy? You've understood. Strategy is an integrated plan which takes into account the internal and the external factors, ties them all together, and then decides some form of course of action to reach the objectives. Okay, we can always you can always click this thing, screenshot of this, and then we can discuss later on in case you've not understood. Nature of strategy is something we've already covered. Need for strategic management also, I think we've covered. We talked of the different levels of strategic management. We said that there are 3 levels of strategic management at the top level and till the functional level. Then we also said that strategic management sometimes is very proactive, and sometimes it is very systematic and rational, and sometimes it is reactive. So the kind of strategic management approach that the organization follows depends a lot on the people who are controlling the organization. Okay. Then we came to the process of strategy. Are you with me?
No, ma, the slide is not moving. It's still in that strategic management.
I don't know what's happening here because I am able to, if I stop sharing and then do it again. In case there's a problem with the slide, what we can do possibly is, what do you want me to do? Should I continue and then,
We would appreciate it if you
I
can
think
send
you
us.
better continue, ma, so that later we will get by our
Just
time.
continue.
yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, and then
Continue.
what I would do is I would share the content with you later on. I think that will be better rather than wasting time right now. Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, that's better, ma'am.
Yes, we have here,
Great.
so you can.
Yes,
So
it's
I
better.
think we will continue. Thank you. I think we will continue with the process of strategic management. I will go a little slow so that you're able to
Yes, since we have the material,
comprehend.
you can continue.
Okay. So what I was saying next, majorly the strategic management process is divided into 3: the strategic formulation, the strategy implementation, and the strategy evaluation parts. Okay. And the first step of strategic management framework is the strategic intent. Strategic intent means the people who have formulated the organization, what is their vision, what do they want to achieve by forming the organization, and they also define the mission, which is a little more detailed, so that it is able to guide the people in the organization, because vision is something, so when we are looking at strategic intent, there are 4 things that we need to formulate that are there to understand. One is the vision, which is the thinking or the vision the organizational founder has in his or her head, and for the something which guides them as to what the organization is going to be. Then they put it down into the mission statement. The mission statement is a statement out of which the remaining plans of the organization are formulated, and it is something which guides the people of the organization whenever they are in doubt. The, like I had an example here where I wanted to talk about Tesla. If you've had the opportunity to see what the vision and the mission statement of Tesla are, the vision of Tesla is to create the most compelling car company of the 21st century by driving the world's transition to electric vehicles. Okay. And the mission of Tesla Incorporation is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. So this is an example of how the vision and the mission statements are formulated, and uh, you know they further on guide the rest of the planning function in the organization. There is one more element of strategic intent. One was vision, second was mission, the third is business definition. The business definition is a clear cut statement of the business or the products or the customers or the technology that the organization is going to cater to. Okay, so it gives a clear picture as to what products they are going to manufacture, what kind of technology they are going to use, what kind of customer base they are going to cater to, the needs of what kind of customers are going to be their customers. So all these things basically give an indication as to what is the business definition of an organization. And then finally, from there, the objectives of the organization are formulated. So this forms the strategic intent of the organization. Why is it important? Because unless and until you know what the organization stands for, unless and until you understand what the organization wants to achieve, what is the mission of the organization, where the organization is going to go, and what are going to be the objectives of the organization according to the top people, the people in the top management, the rest of the planning cannot happen, the rest of the process cannot happen, the rest of the strategies cannot be built. You, unless and until you know that you're going to reach, like for example, if maybe you look at the Tesla objectives, we don't have, they are not easily available on in the public domain. But if you think of the Tesla objectives, there could be something like introduce a wide range of electric vehicles in so and so geographical area by so and so time frame. They talk a lot about gigafactories. They have a lot of gigafactories where they are manufacture huge amounts of vehicles, electric vehicles. So one objective of Tesla could be establish a gigafactory with an annual capacity to produce 500,000 electrical vehicles. Or they can talk of establishing a robust charging infrastructure with charging centers, capacity so and so within a time frame of so and so years. So these could be the objectives. And once all this is formulated, the strategy part comes into play, where we decide now how are we going to achieve these objectives. So okay, so let me try once again, because I feel that if you're not able to see these slides, doesn't make any sense. Let me just give it a final try. And in case I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Can you see something?
Yes.
What is it?
Strategic managerial framework, environmental and organization analysis.
Yes.
Hey, lovely. Okay, so we've reached that slide now. Good. You want me to, try and go back again so that you're able to see?
That's okay.
That's okay? Okay. So we talked of vision. Are you able to see that? Vision, mission we talked of. And we talked of the business definition. Business definition defines the organization in terms of the product, the customer, and the technology. So if you look at Tesla, possibly the products that they manufacture, the business definition of Tesla would be automobiles, energy sector, and storage systems that they have. Customer base is basically individual customers only, as far as I understand. So I've left that blank. Technology that they are using is electric vehicles and solar power. So to some extent, when you define the business, the organization is in a position to identify what areas they are going to go into, what areas are their core, areas of interest, and then objectives, definitely. So that was the first part of the strategic management framework. What? The strategic intent. The strategic intent is defined in terms of the vision, the mission, the business definition, and the objectives of the organization. Okay? Let's come to the second part of the strategic management process, which is the environmental and organizational analysis. So before we come to the formulation of strategy in the sense of what is the organization going to do in the future, we have to look at the environment. The environmental analysis is also called environmental scanning or appraisal, right? And it has two aspects there. One is monitoring the environment in the sense that you have to collect a lot of information, keep on looking at what all is happening around you, not looking in terms of per se, looking personally, but collecting information, collecting data through surveys and through other kinds of studies. That is called environmental search or monitoring the environment. And then on the basis of that collected information, identify opportunities and threats, which is called environmental diagnosis. And there are a whole lot of tools and techniques for monitoring the environment and also identifying the opportunities and threats, which is called environmental diagnosis. But this is in block 2. So we just need to know at the moment here that when you're talking of the strategic management framework or the strategic management process, the second step of the process is environmental analysis. Environmental analysis along with organizational analysis. So the tools and techniques which are used in environmental analysis or the organizational appraisal, that we will be looking at in the block 2. Is that right? Now,
Yes.
okay. After the second step, which is the environmental and organizational analysis, we come to the most important component. I should not say most important, but most interesting, I would say, because this is a little interesting part of the strategic management process. So the third thing, after you identify objectives and after you look at the environment and study the environment and scan the environment, is identification of the different strategic alternatives which are available to us. Okay. There are 4 basic, strategic alternatives available in general to all organizations. Something called stability, second is expansion, third is retrenchment, and fourth is combination. So whenever the organization is deciding what to do in the future, how to go about achieving the objectives, or what is going to do, how to mold the future of the organization in a way which is acceptable to the people of the organization, there are 4 basic strategies. One is stability, in the sense, if the organization feels that we should not make many changes in the organization because we are stable, we are profitable, we are doing good, so they will follow the stability alternative or stability strategy. It would also happen in cases where there is not much risk involved in the environment. So if there is no threat, obviously no one wants to rock the boat. So stability strategy talks of doing things as they are being done. The expansion strategy is a strategy where the organization feels that they need to grow and expand. Now, expansion can be in a wide variety of ways. We'll come to the detail of that in the next slide. Retrenchment. Retrenchment is when we are taking away resources from a particular business unit or an organization, downsizing the functioning, downsizing the operations of that particular firm for some reason, and that some reason could be because maybe it's a loss-making firm, or maybe it's too costly for us to continue business in that particular segment or that particular product. Then retrenchment is done. The fourth strategy that can be strategic alternative which is available is combination, where we can possibly, and that is basically in organizations which have more, they are multi-product organizations or multiple business units they have. So some business unit might be expanded, some business would be held as it is, some business would be retrenched. That can happen. So, but in majorly there are 4 basic strategic alternatives. Various combinations of these 4 strategic alternatives are available, right? Okay. Stability is one. Stability strategy is where the company does not go beyond what it is doing now. It serves the same product in the same market with the existing technology. This will happen only when the environment is relatively stable, right? Some slight changes in services or special facility added, there could happen in stability strategy, but overall, the organization is stable. Expansion is this is adopted when the environment demands increase in the pace of activity. So it could happen in terms, it could happen in a threatening environment also, it could happen in a conducive environment also. It depends on what kind of environment it is and how the organization chooses to respond to that environment, right? So if they want to grow in some manner or they want to offset competition, then also expansion is advisable. Retrenchment, except reduce the scope of activities in terms of customer groups, customer functions, or alternative technologies, or partially or totally withdrawing from these uh, aspects. Combination, like I said, in a multi-product firm, a combination strategy can be followed. These were the four basic strategies. But since we are looking at the phase where we're talking of identification of strategic alternatives. So apart from these four grand strategies, there are other strategies also which can be employed, to achieve the objectives. Okay, have we gone further? One strategy could be modernization when the technology that you're using is possibly um, not up to date, or you need to advance the technology to increase production and productivity or to reduce cost. Then this strategy can be followed. One interesting strategic alternative which is available to organizations uh, is integration. Integration means starting to produce new products both sides of the value chain. Now, what is a value chain? Anyone can tell me what is a value chain? Can anyone tell me what's a value chain? Any idea, or have you heard of that?
Is it to increase the economic value of something?
Yes, definitely. Every products, anything that we use, all products and services, not services, let's talk of products. The products that we use at one time was some kind of a raw material, right? That raw material was processed and some value was added to it. It later on, was turned into different advanced product, more value was added to it. By the time that product reached us, you know, it had new features, more value was added to it, and it reached us in a different form. Okay, that is basically called a value chain, where the value is added at every stage. Okay, right now we're talking of the integration strategy. The integration strategy is basically where the new products and services are added to what products and services we are producing at the moment, both ways, towards the uh, ahead of the value chain, in the forward in the value chain, and also possibly backward in the value chain. For example, integration can be of three types: forward integration, backward integration, and horizontal integration. What is forward integration? When a yarn manufacturer possibly starts producing garments, or when a leather manufacturer starts you know to grow his business or her business, if the firm starts producing higher end shoes, then it is forward integration because they are going ahead in the value chain, right? Backward integration, when an organization acquires any a supplier or acquires a firm which produces raw materials, which supplies raw materials, then it is backward integration. And why does an organization do it? To offset some kind of risk sometimes, and also to take advantage of the opportunities in that particular segment, right? Um, Third, horizontal integration is when the organization acquires the competitors. Someone who's at the same level is doing the same kind of work, meeting the same basic needs of the consumers. When the organization acquires these kind of organization, it is called horizontal integration. So integration is an important strategic alternative which is available for organizations to meet their objectives. There are various terms which are used for integration. We'll come to that. Integration can be defined in a variety of ways. We'll come to that. Are you able to see this slide now?
We are seeing the slide, but they are not moving. At this point, we are on a strategic management framework.
Okay, so I'll have to stop sharing again and then start, I think, sharing again. Hold on. This happens, I suppose, every time I will have to look for a solution to that. I think for every slide, I'll have to share it. Now, are you able to see it? Diversification?
Yes, we're able
Okay.
to see it.
Okay. So,
Yes, yes.
Okay. So one strategic alternative, which is another strategic alternative which is available, is diversification. You might all be aware of what is diversification. When the organization changes the business definition, either in terms of consumer needs or the kind of consumer groups or alternative technology or market segments, then it is diversification. Diversification would mean the organization is producing some other product in addition to the ones that they were already producing. They are meeting the needs of some other consumer groups in addition to the consumer groups they were catering to. They are using alternative technology in addition to what technology they were using to produce new goods and services. So that is diversification. How does how does diversification help, or why does an organization adopt this kind of a strategy? Because it minimizes risks by spreading over several businesses. One business might be doing good, one business might not be doing good. That can be offset by investing in some other business to capitalize on the organization's strengths. So sometimes when the organizations have strength, people strength, or technology strength, or raw material strength, or any kind of internal strength in a particular segment, they would like to expand so that they're able to capitalize, they're able to leverage that strength that they have. Minimize weaknesses to minimize threats. Again, it's the same thing as not being at risk by only being stuck in one segment. If something happens to the industry, if the industry weakens or the attractiveness of the industry reduces, then they may be at risk. So they have to, in such cases, the organization wants to diversify. To avoid current instability in profit and sales, the same thing. And to facilitate higher utilization of resources. Sometimes resources, sometimes like, the waste products produced in a particular organization, in a particular factory, can be utilized in some other manner. You would see that there's a lot of scrap generated in pharmaceutical industry. They utilize that waste in some other manner. So diversification helps in the organization in a lot of manners. Okay, diversification can, again, if you want to go ahead and classify diversification into different forms, it is concentric diversification, conglomerate diversification, and horizontal diversification. Concentric diversification is when similar products are made which are similar to the ones that we are producing. Like, for example, if a lingerie firm goes into sports apparel, it is concentric diversification. Same kind of products. Conglomerate, completely different kind of products or businesses. We diversify that. That is conglomerate, right? And horizontal is when new products which are related, but they are appealing to different consumer segments. So you're not doing too much of work over there as far as arrangement of resources is concerned. So diversification is one strategic alternative. Can you see joint ventures?
No, ma.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing and I'll go ahead and again share these file again with you. Hold on. This is a big issue. I think we'll have to. There's some technical problem with at my side only, so I'll get it rectified by tomorrow. I think now you should be able to see joint ventures. Yes?
Yes, ma.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Joint ventures. That is also a strategic alternative which is available to organization. They do it basically when they want to achieve some kind of synergy. They want to share risk to organization. What is a joint venture? Joint venture is when two or more companies come together and form a third temporary partnership. It could be a firm and both of them have stakes there, both of them have bring their core competencies, and the joint venture is having the strengths of both the organization. So a lot many advantages. We can go ahead and look at it in detail later on. There could be certain strategic alliances also. Organizations can also achieve their objectives by formulating strategic alliances. Two or more companies would come together to market each other's product, come together to use the technology available with one firm. Those kind of strategic alliances can be formed between organizations. And that is an important strategic alternative available to organizations. I'm going to okay. Mergers, acquisitions, takeovers, divestment, and turnaround strategy. Are you able to see that?
Yes, ma.
Okay, we'll go ahead fast. You might have heard of these terms: mergers, acquisitions, and takeovers. There is a slight difference between all these three. More or less, they mean the same also. Mergers are when two or more companies, two or more organizations come together, form a single organization. It is called a merger. When one company acquires another company and retains its own name, it is acquisition. When a strong company takes over, in the sense that they acquire the company, the second company, without their easy agreement. Well, agreement is not a good word, but then yes, it's called a takeover. So majorly in all these three cases, companies are coming together to form a different organization or a same organization. But mergers are when two companies are involved with each other. They want to get into a partnership like that. It is a merger. Acquisition is when one strong company acquires another company by paying the amount, whatever is due. It's acquisition. And takeover is basically generally a hostile takeover, where if you remember, Elon Musk's had tried to acquire, not tried to acquire. He has acquired Twitter, and to some extent we could see the elements of a hostile takeover in between. But then ultimately it was not a legal hostile takeover. Anyway, and similarly, when you're talking of acquisition, then Meta, which was earlier known as was parent company of Facebook. They have acquired 91 companies to maintain their dominance in the social media, and they would possibly maintain their dominance in the social media for years to come now because they've acquired a lot of companies. Okay, disvestment is something where the company has no ownership and control in that business and is engaged in complete selling of the unit. So when a unit is actually very loss making, the organization might decide to strategically divest and sell that unit, sell over all the capital, the land, the factory, whatever, and utilize that money elsewhere. Turnaround strategy can be a combination of a lot of other strategic alternatives. Turnaround strategy is basically for turning around a company, like when the company is not doing good, either you sell it off, which is divestment, or you try to turn it around and make it a profit making company from a loss making company. So there are a lot many alternative uh, strategies would be involved as far as turnaround strategy is concerned. Okay. Now I will are you able to see Porter's generic strategies?
Yes.
Okay. I've developed technique where I am, sharing one page separately, each page separately. So I think you're able to see. Now what are we actually discussing here? What have we discussed in the last couple of slides? We've discussed the strategic management process, and we have discussed the third, in fact, the fourth step of the strategic management process. If you remember, the first step was strategic intent, where we formulate the vision and mission and business definition and objectives. The second step was environmental and organizational analysis. The third step was formulation of no, I'm just forgetting. What was it?
Formulation of alternatives.
Yeah, identification. This is the third step only. This is the problem with PowerPoint presentations. Keep on forgetting what exactly was there. Okay. Anyway, so we are talking of the third or the fourth step, where we are talking of identification of alternative or strategic alternatives, in the sense that to fulfill our objectives, what route are we going to follow? One important contribution in this particular area is Porter's generic strategies, right? Porter has proposed a lot of good theories as far as strategic management is concerned. We have another one coming up in the next unit, which is very interesting. Again, these theories are very interesting, and they shed a lot of light on what happens in strategic management. So, according to this strategy, a firm's relative position within the industry determines whether a firm's profitability is above or below the industry average. What does that mean? That means that whether an organization is doing, how an organization is doing in an industry depends on what kind of profitability it has. Does it have profitability which is above the industry average, or does it have profitability which is below the industry average? Right? If it has above the industry average, we follow different strategies. If it is below the industry average, we follow a different strategy. So the fundamental basis of above average profitability is long run sustainable competitive advantage. And competitive advantage comes from basically two things: low cost or differentiation. Let us put it in different words. Why does a company prosper? Why does a company do good in the marketplace? Why does it do better than the competitors? Why does it earn more profit in the industry? They can be basically two things, according to Porter. One is possibly it is able to produce the goods and services that they are offering in the marketplace in lower cost than the other competitors, than the other players of the industry. So when they are able to do that, they are able to offer the products and services in a lower price. And when they're able to do it in a lower price, they have a better market share. And when they have a better market share, obviously they are more profitable. Okay. Secondly, the second origin point of competitive advantage is differentiation. When a company is able to offer, when an organization is able to offer a product or a service which is slightly better, is differentiated, is offering some benefit which the other organizations of which the other players of the industry are not able to offer, then it has a differentiation advantage. In both these cases, the company has competitive advantage, and when the company has competitive advantage, they are more profitable, and their profitability is basically above the industry average. Okay, so on the basis of these two competitive advantages, the Porter's generic strategy can be of three kinds. And I'll just show you so either they are cost leaders, or they have differentiation, or they are focused. Let's look at the slide which has the chart, then you will be able to better understand. Able to see the chart? Oh. Are you able to see this matrix
Yes.
between? Okay.
Yes, we're able.
Okay. So
Yes.
the Porter's generic strategy is basically a matrix between the competitive scope. What do you mean by scope? Scope is the area of operation, whether we are catering to a bigger market, or we are catering to a smaller market. Are we looking at all the mass market, or are we looking at only some segments? Okay, as far as the consumer groups are concerned. And secondly, like we said, there can be two competitive advantages. We can possibly offer a lower cost, or we can possibly offer a differentiated product, or better features, or better need satisfaction, right? When we formulate a matrix between these two, we can look at three different strategic alternatives that are available to an organization. So when a company is able to offer a lower cost product, and is able to also cater to a broad target group or a mass market, they are generally cost leaders. That means if they are able to do these, if they are able to cater to the mass market and they can offer a lower cost, then they should go ahead and follow the cost leadership strategy, right? In the sense that they should try to capture a major part of the market. But that can only happen when they have some kind of advantage as far as cost is concerned. Now, the advantage as far as cost is concerned would come from economies of scale, possibly, or because raw material is easily available, or they are using some technology which is, reducing the cost. It depends on what all. There could be a wide variety of factors. We'll come to the explanation of that also. Secondly, another strategy which they can follow is differentiation strategy. In the sense, they are catering to the broader market, but they are offering a product. They have some strength where they are able to offer a product which is different from the other products. So they are able to possibly, also charge a little price premium on that. When the organization is catering to a narrow market, you understand what is a narrow market and a broad target, no? Narrow target or a broad target. Narrow target, if you've studied marketing, you would know that the market can be divided into segments on the basis of their needs, on the basis of the kinds of needs that they have, on the basis of what they are looking for in the product. And when we are meeting the needs of only a few segments, it is a narrow target market. The competitive scope is narrow. And when we are basically, producing a product, or our business is basically caters to the whole masses, then it is a broad scope. Okay. The third strategy can be divided into two again. It's called focus in the sense that if the organization is only catering to the needs of a select few consumer segments, and they are also able to lower the cost, then it is called cost focus. There they would only target on reducing the cost so that they don't lose those segments, and they are leaders in those segments. Similarly, they can also have a differentiation focus, where they are catering to a segment which has specific needs, which are not satisfied by the other similar products or services or the organizations. And this organization would focus on the fact that they always maintain that differentiation. So this strategy is also there. So it depends on the organization. According to the Porter's generic strategy, it depends on the organization. If it has a competitive advantage in terms of lower cost, then it can follow either the cost leadership or the cost focus strategy. If their product is better than the other organizations which are their other players in the marketplace, then they can either offer a differentiated product in the broad market, or they can also focus on some segments, and then according to their needs, they can differentiate the products. So that was all about. I think we need to, I'll just give you an explanation on that also, and then we go ahead. There. Cost leadership, you can do a little reading on that. What do you mean by cost leadership and differentiation? We've already explained that here. And then you can also do a little reading on the focus strategy, which can be of two types again, which is differentiation focus and cost focus. Okay, so this is a very popular, in fact, theory. It's not actually a theory, it's a very popular concept. Kindly do a little reading on that, the Porter's generic strategies, and then if you have any doubts, then we can discuss them tomorrow. The next, so this finishes the identification of alternative strategies. So there are a whole lot of strategic alternatives which are available to the organization, and now it is up to the organization to choose the various strategies that we have discussed earlier. So there's a whole gamut of strategic alternative available, and now it is up to the organization to choose any one strategy or more than one strategy. It all depends on what organization, what are the needs of the organization. If it's a conglomerate, if it's a multi-product organization, obviously there would be different strategies for different organizations, different strategies for different departments, possibly. Even at the functional level, it can happen that we can have different strategies for different departments and different functions, right? So it is all up to the decision makers, whether it is there at the corporate level or the functional level or the business unit level, what strategy they want to choose. But the choice of strategy can depend on two types of factors, right? This is the fourth part of the strategic management framework or the process of strategic management. The choice of strategy depends on two types of factors. Objective factors which can be quantified, can be systematically analyzed, scientifically analyzed using mathematical models or tools, right? And then we can choose a particular strategy. There could be also subjective factors. Subjective factors are ones which cannot be quantified, where the analysis or the judgment or the choice is done on the basis of experience or the opinions or the subjective judgments of the people who are involved in the decision making process, right? So the choice of strategy depends on both objective and subjective factors. And the decision makers or the strategic managers who are sitting there, who are making that decision there, would have to consider both these factors and then take the decision as to what strategy is more suitable to achieve a particular, not a particular, achieve organizational objectives. As far as objective ways are concerned, the choice of strategy can be made using three different analysis: the corporate portfolio analysis, the competitor analysis, and the industry analysis. Are you with me? Like, it's a little theoretical subjects. Have you understood what has been discussed till now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So when we are talking, what we are saying is, when we are in the process of choosing a strategy, we need to look at certain tools and techniques which will help us systematically and scientifically evaluate the differences between strategies. Okay, what strategy is suitable to us, what strategy isn't suitable to us. We might also use some subjective factors. We might have an experience, we might have past history, we might have people who are consultants who will possibly give us opinions, or we might use our own judgments to decide what strategies to use. Anyway, so when we're talking of objective ways to analyze the strategies, we can have we can have three different analysis. One is the corporate portfolio analysis. That is any organization which wants to basically compare different products or different units and then make strategic choices for those different units, would use corporate portfolio analysis. There are tools and techniques, we are coming to that. The organization, before making a strategic choice, will also look at the competition, will also consider what all players are there in the market, in the industry, and how they are doing. So competitive analysis will have to be done. Similarly, the organization, before choosing a strategy, will also have to see how the industry is doing, whether the industry is attractive, the industry in which we operate, is it attractive, or is it going to go, it's not going to do that good in the next coming 10 years. That also has to be seen. So before the strategy is chosen, we need to do all these three objective analysis, right? Okay. Are you able to see this corporate portfolio analysis?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Like I said, when a company is more than one business, it will have to select a different strategic alternative for each business, right? And it will also have to compare. Reason being that then the organization has limited resources, like we already discussed. The corporate office or the conglomerate has limited resources, so it has to decide what business they want to continue, what business they want to divest, what business they want to invest in. So those kinds of decisions, choosing the strategy for this kind of an organization, we use the corporate portfolio analysis. And there are different tools and techniques for this. One is experience curve. We will only briefly discuss it here because the detailed discussion would happen in I think, the third or the fourth block for all these techniques and tools. So we'll discuss these in detail there. But experience curve is basically takes into account the past history and the past details of the data of the organization, right? PLC concept, you must have, oh, it's gone now, this slide. You able to see that slide once again, corporate portfolio analysis?
Yes, ma.
Okay. The PLC concept. In marketing, you must have heard that there is something called the product life cycle. Have you heard that? Have you come across that?
Yes, ma.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
The product life cycle tells us that every product is born, it goes through a growth phase, a maturity phase, and a decline phase, right? So when we look at a particular choose a strategy accordingly, right? We would not invest in the decline phase, possible. Okay, so we'll look at it in detail later on. There's another portfolio analysis tool which is called the BCG matrix or the growth share matrix. It's a very good tool. It compares. This is again for comparing businesses in a conglomerate, in an organization which owns two or more separate, distinct businesses. It is a matrix between the market growth rate, which tells us how attractive the market is, which tells us if the market or the industry is growing or not, and the market share, which tells us what strength the organization has or the particular business has. So in this kind of a matrix, the comparison can happen on the basis of how good the market is and how good the company is. Okay. Similarly, there is another uh, matrix which is called the GE model or the GE 9-cell matrix. It is also again based on two dimensions where we talk of market attractiveness and business strength. So, uh, the attractiveness of the market will ensure that you want to remain in the industry, and the business strength will tell us whether we want to, again, both the same thing. The GE 9-cell matrix. Similarly, there are other portfolio analysis tools which are called the space diagram, the Hoffer's product market evaluation matrix, and the directional policy matrix. Let us not look at this at the moment. We are going to, as it is, cover them in detail in the 4th unit. All these three, like the earlier BCG matrix and the GE model, place the company or the business in a matrix or in a space where we are able to understand their comparative strengths and comparative weaknesses, right? And then we can take decisions accordingly. Now, are you able to see the competitor analysis?
Not yet visible.
Okay, so I think I'll have to follow my strategy of presenting a different page altogether. Visible now?
Yes, ma.
Okay.
Yes.
Like we said, the portfolio analysis will help us in the choice of strategy. Similarly, the competitor analysis will also help us in the choice of strategy. But as far as portfolio analysis was concerned, we were looking at our own business. We are looking at our own business units, our own products, our own different offerings in the marketplace and comparing them amongst themselves. As far as competitor analysis is concerned, we would be comparing our strengths and weaknesses with the competition. Now, the competition is not just the other players who are offering similar products in the marketplace. The competition could be people who have the potential to come into the market. The competition can also come from suppliers because they can forward integrate. The competition can also come from our buyers because they can backward integrate. Competition can also come from substitute products. Competition can come not just from people who are existingly there in the industry, but from people, from organizations which have the potential to come in the industry. So competitive analysis is also a very vast analysis, and an important tool which is used in competitive analysis is Porter's 5 force analysis. Again, we will look at it in detail in the coming units. The third thing which we need to analyze before we choose a strategy for the organization is the industry analysis. Like the competitive analysis, industry analysis is also about how the industry is performing, whether it is going to grow, whether it is attractive, for how long it is going to be there, whether it is um, going to be risky in the future, or whether there are going to be some kind of changes which are going to make the industry unattractive in the long run. All these things will be considered. SWOT analysis is one tool through which we look at the industry and the environment also. Okay, so in summary, the strategic choice phase or the strategic choice stage is a decision making process where we look at the various strategic alternatives available. We analyze and evaluate the strategic alternatives on the basis of certain objective factors and certain subjective factors. For objective factors, for objectively analyzing, we use tools which are a whole gamut of tools are available. And using those tools, we compare the organization's inner entities. We also compare the competitors. We also compare the industry. We study all these three factors, and then using our experience, using our opinions, using our past, judgment on the basis of past happenings, subjectively also analyze the choice of the strategy that we are considering, and then finally we make the strategic choice. Okay. After the strategic choice, after we have decided what strategy we want to follow for what business, for what product, for what area of our of our functioning, we have to implement that strategy. The implementation of the strategy also has a lot of components. The project, I think, implementation of strategy is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So once we've decided a strategy of our choice, for example, if the organization decides on expanding in a new product line, it will have to acquire land, machinery, all resources, that is project as a part of project implementation, capital investment also. It will have to go ahead, the organization will have to follow all the procedures, acquire all licenses, permissions, legal requirements, all rules and regulations to produce that particular new product in which the organization has decided to diversify. In the long run, resources will have to be allocated to the purchase of what all factors of production are required. The organization will have to be created in terms of people have to be staff, people have to be recruited and put into place. The organization structure has to be created. Once all this is in place, then during the implementation, once the working starts, the functional implementation has to be done, policies and plans have to be put in place, and the organization has to start working. Behavioral implementation is also an important part of strategy implementation, wherein people need to be trained, people need to be advised, people need to be directed as to what is to be done for the successful implementation of strategy. So it involves leadership, it involves managing the culture of the organization, managing conflicts, instilling values and ethics which the organization wants to instill in its people. So that is about implementation of strategy. Once the implementation has been done, there is something called evaluation and control. Can you see the evaluation and control slide?
Not yet.
Okay. I think now it's visible. Visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Evaluation, you know, it's done by the top managers. Why? Because the strategy was formulated at the top level. Basically, most strategies trickle down from the top towards the lowest level of the organization, right? It's an ongoing process. You would recall that any management process is an ongoing process. Any management process is a continuous process because you cannot leave things to chance. Evaluation emphasizes the measurement of results, and control emphasizes taking corrective action or action which catches exceptions and then takes corrective action. Okay. So evaluation and control. Evaluation is measuring results, and control is seeing that the results are as per expectations, and then in case they are not as per expectations, changes have to be made, corrective action has to be taken. That is done by that is a control function, right? When evaluation and control is carried out efficiently, three basic areas will be working properly. We can measure organizational progress, whether that strategy has been successful. For we can get feedback for future actions. We would know that this new strategy was implemented and this happened. This is the kind of result that we've achieved of that strategy. And then performance and rewards can also be decided on the basis of the result of a strategy, on the basis of evaluation of the strategy. So who does the basic evaluation? The top level managers do the evaluation and control function of strategy. Now, this brings us to the end of the strategic management process. But there is a very important concept which is not mentioned but which is very important for us to discuss. That concept is called the strategic gap analysis. Whatever, you're able to see this strategic gap analysis slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Whatever we've discussed up till now, in this subject, in this first unit and the second unit, we've said that organizations need to take strategic decisions if they have to survive in the ever-changing environment, and if they have to utilize the core competencies of the organization properly. related to all this, that we've discussed up till now, is the concept of strategic gap analysis. We say that why do we have to go, like, the whole the conceptual framework is this: why do we have to even make a strategic decision? Why do we have to go and decide by look at the various strategic alternatives available? Why do we do that? What is the need for that? Why do we want to make that change? The organization, if the organization is existing, and if things are going smoothly, or we don't need to make a change. We should be, the organization should be run smoothly, and there should be stability. Gap analysis helps us to understand why we make strategic decisions. This concept of gap analysis, this is common sense. This is actually what has happened throughout the unit that we've discussed, is that we were looking at this concept at the background, but we did not actually per se mention what it means. The term gap refers to the space between where we are and where we want to be. Gap analysis assesses the differences between the actual and desired performance in an organization or a business. For example, if everything is smooth, the environment is not changing, there is no risk involved at all, possibly strategic decision making will not come into picture. But like we mentioned, everything is dynamic. The environment is dynamic, the organization is dynamic. Whatever you may feel that the internal environment of the organization, possibly does not have any risk involved, it has risk. People may change, people attitudes may change, there could be conflicts in an organization. A whole lot of things can happen, can go wrong as far as the internal environment of an organization is concerned. And we already know about the external environment, that the external environment is very uncertain. So if you look at this chart over here, it says that when you compare the performance of an organization as with time, when you place it on a matrix like this, if you follow whatever you've been following till now, you will reach a particular place in time T2. But you may not want to be just there. The organization might want some other results. So if they want to achieve those desired results or the desired performance, the organization has to put in extra efforts. If the organization does not make those extra efforts, then there will be a gap between the desired performance and the performance of the organization at time T2. This gap needs to be identified and filled. Let us look at the second slide, which will be more clear to you. It's something which I have drawn here because it is not available on the. Can you see this slide, which is a drawing by me, artwork by me?
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
This gives a better, clearer picture of what is strategic gap analysis. Suppose the organization is following a strategy and is growing at its own pace. At time T1, we make a formal evaluation to understand how things are. And at time T2, if we keep on following the existing strategy that we might possibly go down as far as expectation, as far as outcome or performance is concerned. Reason being, like I said, the environment changes, the organization changes, the people change, whole lot of risks. Nothing can be stable. And there we might see a gap. I could draw some, there's a, the distance between B and C is actually the performance gap. That is not denoted over here. I think you should be able to. The distance between B and C is the performance gap, which needs to be reduced. So at time T2, if the organization has not made any changes, has not made any extra efforts to reach the desired outcome, this gap will become larger. There's a slight explanation of this chart. I'll just show it to you. Like I said, the distance between B and C was the performance gap. That's the gap, and we need to reduce that gap, right? The number of conditions which we need to the desired, the actual outcome will we desire because of some or opportunities. There will be certain factors, certain weaknesses also. The interplay between these factors will ensure to go down. The performance, the actual performance goes down. Where do we actually want to go? We want to achieve a desired outcome. We want to achieve the outcomes. The gap analysis from this kind of a diagram to understand. Gap analysis will lead to change only when the gap is perceived to be significant. The gap between B and C. It crosses the minimum threshold of perception. Like the organization, the manufacturer, if we don't make changes in the organizational strategy, then we will not see desired results. The decision is more. The gap need to change because when the gap is perceived to significant by the decision maker. The decision maker is also motivated to reduce the gap. And the decision maker should also believe that the gap can be reduced. That means that the difference between the actual outcome and the desired outcome, which is aspired, which is aspirational, will only happen when the people who are in the organization feel that if we do not make changes to the existing strategy, we might not be able to reach. They should be motivated. They should also feel that this gap is going to be huge if we don't work towards improving our overall strategies. And they should also believe that they have the capacity, the assets, and the resources. So alter this strategy so that the expected outcome will be closer to the desired outcome. That means that we will try to lift B to C. When will we do that? When we believe that gap is significant, we can reduce it. We have to work towards reducing that gap, and we are motivated, obviously. What we'll do? We'll try to do everything We will try to put in efforts. We will try to choose a strategy which will help uplift B to C. I'm sorry, C to B, desired outcome, towards the desired outcome. If the gap is significant and important, but not reducible, then what we'll do, we will not keep an objective which is high. We will reduce B. We will bring the desired outcome down. We know that we do not have the resources to reach that place. We do not have the resources to reach that outcome. Our performance cannot reach at that level. What we'll do is we'll reduce our expectations of the organization. If the gap, whatever gap between B and C, is neither significant, nor is it important, nor it is reducible, the firm will not do anything. It will continue with the past strategy. You know, this kind of gap analysis happens with all the segments, all the levels of the organization, and it also happens in our lives also. If we are able to perceive that whatever strategy, whatever work, whatever schedule, whatever you know things we are doing right now, they will not be able to take us to a desired outcome that we want to achieve. If we feel that, if we think that it is that if we do not make any changes in our lifestyle, or if we do not make any changes in our schedules, or in the way we conduct our lives, if we feel that it will lead to a significant gap between what we will be able to achieve and what we want to achieve, then we will possibly try to reduce that gap. So gap analysis, in fact, I don't know whether I've been able to convey it in a proper manner, but gap analysis is an important concept for making strategic decisions. Whether it is an organization, whether it are individuals, or whether it is any concept where changes in the strategy can lead to changes in the outcomes. I think we will stop here because I think we are time is not a constraint. In case you have any query or any observation that you'd like to share, and in case you want to share something, we can discuss it right now, or we can have queries maybe tomorrow when we meet in the beginning of the academic counseling. So with this strategic gap analysis, we've finished unit 2. We should have been able to do unit 3 also, but then we'll do it tomorrow because it is only an extension of strategic intent. Unit 3 is basically a brief explanation of vision, mission, business definition, and objectives, and some such topics.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Ma.
Very interesting.